we had the chance to interview Daniel Chávez Jr., candidate for District 4 City Council. Among topics discussed were the economy, homeless crisis, the environment, and issues you, the voters, care about. So let's get on to it. As you know, this is a crowded field. Many people want this job. What makes you different?
Nearly a decade of experience and invested in local government. I served 5 years on the Planning Commission. I have 4 years on the Ventura County Transportation Commission, 2 years on the Ventura County Climate Emergency Council, and 2 years on Metrolink. So I have local, county, and regional governmental experience. And I mean, from day one, I'll be able to hit the ground running. There is no taking 4 years to learn how to um, the workings or ongoings of a city. I'm really been invested for that entire time.
And what specific accomplishments are you most proud of during your time there?
From the Oxnard Planning Commission, I would say proudest one of my proudest moments would be the over 160 unit housing development that's going to be going on in the Vineyard. We were able to work with the developer to increase the percentage of affordable housing units, as well as make it that it's going to be real school district employees first that have an option at it, followed by Oxnard residents. Um, my time on Metrolink, I would say working with the CEO from Metrolink and the executive director from VCTC to expand the weekend services on Metrolink. Now residents can go from Oxnard on the weekends all the way to downtown LA on the train, $10 for a ride, free for kids. So I would say those are my two like highlight accomplishments so far.
And you also served on the Ventura County Climate Emergency Council.
Yes.
So it's a council, for those who don't know, it's a council that advises the Ventura County Board of Supervisors on climate policy. So having that experience, how do you balance economic growth with environmental concerns?
So I always believe that in order when you're developing, it has to be responsible, and that means taking care of our environment. I'm very concerned when we start looking at developments and it starts taking away our farmlands. For the simple fact is that Oxnard is an agricultural community, but it also means that when we are developing, that we have responsible developers come in that placing solar panels on their properties, um, either having some EV chargers on their properties so that people can be able to charge up while they're shopping or while they're at their homes. Um, so it's extremely important to me. I have two small kids, an 8 and 6 year old. I want them to be able to enjoy California like I have and like so many others have. But we need to make sure that development is responsible and that we keep our community in the best possible shape.
And how do you deal with opposing opinions, people who completely are against everything you stand for? How do you deal with that?
It's something that you learn over time because from being on the planning commission and all these other commissions, you have people that are not really happy with you. Some will agree with your position on issues, others will oppose it. I've gotten harassing phone calls, harassing text messages, emails. I even got a couple of death threats a couple of times. It happens, but the one thing that keeps me motivated is that I'm doing this on behalf of my community. I was born and raised here. My kids are being raised here, and it's for them. It's for the thousands of kids that I used to work with at the school sites in education. So it's really staying hyper focused on the community.
And how do you foster an inclusive environment and addressing the unique concerns of underrepresented groups here in Oxnard?
So I will honestly say that in 2016, when we were at large, out of 12 candidates, I was the only candidate from South Oxnard. Everyone else was from here, Central Oxnard and downtown, where we're at Plaza Park, and then up north. I understood the challenges of residents in South Oxnard because I grew up in South Oxnard. I went to school in South Oxnard. When I started working for the Wayne School District, I worked in South Oxnard. So I understood that they needed the same voice, But right now, with these district elections, and I'm walking neighborhoods, I'm seeing that those challenges are everywhere, and we need to be able to address those challenges. And the best way to do that is to have those conversations and realize that it doesn't really matter what part of our city that we live in. Everybody needs to be brought to the table, have that conversation, have their concerns addressed.
And what's your vision for Oxnard's future? What are going to be your main priorities?
So I have three main priorities. And it's been like that from the very beginning. It's been public safety, housing, and jobs. Um, Someone who was raised by a single parent, seeing my mother struggle with minimum wage jobs, with no benefits. There was four of us, and I'm the oldest of four boys. Um, it hits home when I see other families that are struggling like that. It also hits home when housing is an issue, when we have a 10-year backlog for Section 8 vouchers because we just can't keep up with the demand. That's why housing has always been a huge focus for me. And then public safety is because everybody wants to feel safe in their community. You know, you want to be able to walk down the street and not have a fear of violence towards you. I want to be able to walk down the street and not have violence against me. So those three things have always been my huge priority, is making sure that our residents feel safe in the community, that they have safe, accessible, and affordable housing, as well as being able to have a job to survive in today's economy. Minimum wage just doesn't cut it, but we do have jobs here right now that pay livable wages and that have medical benefits.
And part of the safety issue is the homeless crisis.
Mm-hmm.
The homeless crisis is not as bad as it was pre-pandemic, but it's still a crisis, and there's still people living in the streets. How would you go about that to help solve this crisis?
So, over the candidate forums that we've been having, I've been telling people, like, it's not unique to Oxnard. It is something that affects us across the nation. But Oxnard is going to be a leader when we address it. And the way that we address it is by working with the state to secure funding and resources, working with the county to secure personnel, because what we need is a second navigation center. You know, we have one that's going to be coming online right behind the council chambers, but we need a second one. And yes, we did see a decrease in our homeless, but we also have to keep in mind that it's kind of like a revolving door, and it changes with seasons. So we need to be able to be proactive in bringing all the partners together. And when I talk about the partners, I'm talking about the local organizations, those nonprofits, the local governmental agencies, bringing them together to the table and finding a way to address it. We know a second navigation center is going to help because it's going to have that wraparound service of having counselors, having interventions, job training, so that they're able to become productive citizens of society once again.
And you've been talking about the Second Navigation Center. I believe it's in one of your pamphlets. So this is something you've been talking about. It's not just something.
It's not just something that I just came up with. It's been something that I've been talking about for a while. Since 2016, there was a program called the RAIN program in Camarillo that offered transitional housing. It has been something that I've been talking about, that we need to have something here in Oxnard. I was happy that when the city manager came, the housing director, they understood that we needed something like that provided that type of service. And I just kept pushing it that, hey, we need a second one. One is good, but we need to do better.
And a third of renters in the state, they spend more than half of their income on rent. And as you know, Prop 33, it gives local communities the power to regulate rent. So do you support that prop? And would you as councilman vote to enact rent control in the city?
So the city already has rent control measures. And I'm completely aware that we have residents that are paying more than half their salaries and their paychecks are going to rent. The best way to address that is develop. We need to be able to build housing. That's why I am advocating that we need to be working with our state partners that allows us to be able to have more control in the city when it comes to developers, because the state kind of gives like a blanket, like this is how regulations are going to be when you're developing. And then cities have a small little window of what additional regulations they can apply. I want to be able to work with our state partners that say, hey, cities, you guys know your community, do what you believe is best for your community. As far as Prop 33 goes, I'm still researching it, so I wouldn't be able to give you an answer on that one. I need to weigh the pros and cons. What are the positive impacts? What are the negative impacts of it? And that's really how I take every single thing. Even when I was on all these boards, I have to think long term. What are the impacts going to be? I can't think emotionally about it because emotional decisions often lead to negative impacts.
Mm. And you say in your pamphlet that you want to address generational poverty. Can you expand on that?
Yes. So as I briefly mentioned, I come from a single parent household. My mom raising four boys, and it's a cycle that we find ourselves in when people just accept working at entry level positions. And when I talk about entry level positions, it's not to disparage against anybody, but like the fast food, retail, these are entry level positions that high school students tend to get into, or people breaking into the career fields. But we need to be able to have jobs that are livable wages, jobs that are going to require people to elevate themselves, take themselves to the next level, so that their families aren't just accepting of these entry positions and then staying it for decades. When I was working with the Wainimi School District, I can honestly tell you there were so many families that worked in entry level positions, struggled to pay rent, had to make hard decisions between gallon of milk or medications, utility bills or food. And I look at that and I say, we can do so much better in Oxnard than just accepting that that's the way of life for us. The jobs are here. The issue is we need to be able to train our residents to get into those positions. And that's why I like the Oxnard Employee Pipeline, was bringing the Alliance together, was bringing the Community College District and the city together on training our residents so that they get into these livable wage jobs with benefits. And that's how you break the cycle. You break it by letting them know that they don't have to just settle for a job at McDonald's for the rest of their lives. There are more out there. And then we also have a lot of the trade, the labor groups, the carpenters, electricians, sheet metal workers, all of them, those are good paying jobs as well with benefits. So we have to be able to inform people of their options. And that's how I believe we are going to break this generational cycle and get people out of poverty so that they don't feel that this is their life forever. Oxnard has a lot of opportunities. There's still a lot of growth occurring, and I believe addressing this, because this is a chronic issue.
Yeah.
And since our city's in a better financial state, we can now focus on what really matters to Oxnard residents.
That was really well explained. Now we can switch to the environment. How would you address environmental justice concerns in District 4, ensuring that all communities have equal access to green spaces and clean air and water?
So, as I mentioned, I'm a father, so open spaces are important. My kids, tons of energy, so they want to be able to enjoy the spaces that they have. I think as a councilman, one of 7 is trying to work with my colleagues on trying to search out grants so that we protect our open spaces, develop on our open spaces so that it benefits our communities. Clean water is extremely important, and that's why it's important that at our water facility that we are forward thinking when we are treating water, where we are distributing the water, and that we're thinking long term of Oxnard growing, the more residents coming in. How are we going to be able to extract water? How are we going to be able to mix it with United and Callegas water and make sure that it's safe and consumable to our residents? And as far as clean air goes, I think we need to be able to address our transportation issues right now. as I already mentioned, I serve on VCTC. I was also a bus operator in public transportation for 10 years. So having a robust transportation system is going to help reduce the greenhouse gases, gives people more options. And so that's what I hope to accomplish, is working with Gold Coast, working with the County Transportation Commission, identify ways to be able to provide more transportation options so that people are relying more on public transportation and ditching their cars, because it will be beneficial for them. Right now, you go and ask people, they're all like, I can't wait 45 minutes for the next bus.
Yeah.
I can't wait 30 minutes for the next bus. I need to get to where I need to go now. So the car is convenient. Gold Coast has made some improvements, but there's still room for improvement.
That was on to my next question. What initiatives you would support to promote alternative modes of transportation, like public transportation, cycling, walking?
Yeah.
So
I believe, so have you ever heard of a one-wheel board? It's like a skateboard with a giant wheel in the middle.
oh yeah.
And me and my brothers, we ride all throughout Oxnard. And we are in those bike lanes, we're on the streets, and I can honestly tell you, it's scary. So I want to be able to work with our council to make protected bike lanes in high traffic areas, to bring what has been done in the San Fernando Valley along Northridge, Reseda Boulevard in Northridge next to the Cal State. Is they have a protected bike lane that is sidewalk, bike lane, barrier, parked cars, and then lane of travel. I want to be able to try to bring that here into Oxnard, because people should feel confident and comfortable riding their bikes, riding their skateboards, or whatever other alternative modes that they have safely in a bike lane without the fear of being taken out by a car or being hit by a door when you're going by. So I want to be able to promote that, but the only way that we're going to be able to promote alternative modes of transportation is if our streets are safe enough for people to be able to ride it.
And can you give a closing message to the voters? Election day is next week, so
Tuesday is election day, and it's extremely important right now for people to cast their votes. Keep in mind, it's not a popularity contest. It's about our future, and for the next 4 years, we need to make sure that the people that we are electing, regardless local or on the national level, that we are selecting the people that are going to have the most positive impact on our quality of life. And I believe that has always been my biggest priority, is the quality of life of our residents. And so be sure to vote, mail in those ballots. They're extremely important. There are voting centers across our city right now that are open and available.
thank you for your time.
Thank you.